All right, we are into the top 10. Number 10 on our organizational value rankings in 2023 is Shane Pinto. Still without a contract, but the skill is too hard to push down further this list.
Yeah, that's the thing, Ross. We didn't even discuss moving him up or down based on the contract status. I think this is exactly the right spot for Shane Pinto now. If he had signed a deal and it was to our liking, maybe he gets bumped up. Probably not. I think this is still the sweet spot for him, but it would have made things interesting and we would have had to have a discussion, I think.
This tier is just, to me, the easiest tier to discuss. Just a two-person tier. These are the top young players, 23 and younger, that need to really establish themselves as NHLers over the next year and a half.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Pinto's already established himself. Let's be clear. 82 games under his belt this year. And a stat that I want to throw out right away, and then I want you to read off his stats. We'll get into it. But I pulled this up because remember the Senators, how bad they were during the COVID year?
Oh, I remember. Yes.
Until Shane Pinto
It's
signed.
true.
The Senators were 9-2-1 when Shane Pinto was in the lineup that
Mhm.
year. So I did some quick math. In the 99 games that Shane Pinto has played, the Senators are 51, 39, and 9. And this isn't like a good team. That's just a decent record. The last year Senators and 2 years ago Senators, that's an impressive stat right there. 51, 39, and 9.
Did you forward that to Shane Pinto and his agent?
No, but if Shane Pinto, any of your family's listening, we got you here.
Absolutely, yeah. So last year, 82 games played. I want to emphasize that again. 82 games played for a centerman, a young centerman that had difficulty staying healthy with a shoulder injury. So that, honestly, Ross, that's the most impressive stat of all his stats laid out here is being healthy for a full season. And not only that, having to play an elevated role and play more minutes and a second line center than he probably was slated to do.
And 20 goals, Pilsy, in his first 17 games, he had 1 goal.
Yeah, that's the thing. He really amplified how he can be effective in scoring goals. And that's the thing with Shane Pinto. Like, he doesn't really have that one defining attribute. He more is just a well-rounded prospect. He's good defensively. He's responsible. He's someone that can support other line mates. He's someone that can tip pucks in front of the net with ease. He's going to get better at the face-off dot. He's got good size at 6'3", 201 pounds. And I think that if Shane Pinto can get this figured out, he can have a big year here. And so we've got our fingers crossed that him and the Ottawa Senators are going to come to some sort of conclusion here because I want to see him opening night very badly.
And Pilsy, just to get on the same trajectory as we talked about with Ridley Gregg, how, the face-offs weren't there, and they rarely are for a young player. For Pinto to come in, again, getting the shoulder completely reconstructed, 52% in the dot, and he took almost 900 face-offs. Like, to me,
that's better than I thought, Ross. Yeah.
That's super impressive. And we saw in college, he had a game where he went 20-0. Like
it was insane.
He was an elite face-off centerman, and that's what they need. A third-line centerman, that's one of the biggest priorities to me, is win your face-offs, get possession for your team, and then that way your big dogs can come out while you already have possession, change on the fly. So that's something that if he can be a 55% centerman in the dot, huge bonus, especially like, no disrespect, but that's the one thing Timmy needs to work on still. Like, he's not going to be 50% of the dot just yet, I don't think. Whereas Norris was good, but again, Norris, how many faceoffs do you even want Norris taking right now with his shoulder coming back? But did Pinto prove everyone wrong? Like, hey, you get that surgery, you're good to go. But that was an impressive stat. Also impressive to me is how he was able to play with good players, right? To him, coming in and being a guy who was put in a position that's probably unfair to him at 22 years old, I love the way he responded. There were some certain cold stretches during the season. That game against Seattle, where he was -5, certainly sticks out on the game log as well. But overall, a really good first full season in the NHL for Shane Pinto.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's what he wanted. That's what the Senators wanted to see from him. So it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do with a full NHL season if he's properly slated on that third line. Now, it's going to be interesting if he does sign a deal and is playing. I think Dominic Kubalik is in pen as that left winger on the third line. So then you got Shane Pinto at center. Ross, who or what type of player would you like to see be that right winger for him?
Well, I think I've been on record as saying I do eventually want to see Igor get a shot. I really do, but I don't know if the styles really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think you'd like to see a playmaker of some sort, somebody who can kind of, get pucks in the right areas. Like, I know it kind of goes behind of what I said earlier, but like a Ridley Gregg wouldn't be the worst thing to have on the wing and go hound pucks if he can show the physicality won't be an issue for him at all at the NHL level. Like a Ridley Gregg, Dominic Kubalik, Shane Pinto line would be just fine for me.
Yeah, that's something I would consider as well, especially because I do think at least for now, Ridley Gregg would have more success on the wing. So that could be a third line that finally solves the bottom six scoring woes that this team felt so heavily last season.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Obviously, we're curious about what the next contract is going to look like for Shane Pinto. But I need to see the continued growth too, because you're looking like at his game log down the stretch after that. Okay, I hate to go back to it, Kelsey, but let's start with the Chicago game.
Oh yeah, great, awesome.
4 goals in the last 20 games. And not that the pressure should be on him to score consistently. I get that. But guess what? In those 4 games that he scored, they went 3-1, right? Like it was almost like an X factor where they were kind of even, and it's like he could be the type of player. And that's typically what your third line is. Like all the stars at the end of the day will cancel themselves out. They'll score, you'll score. It's how deep in your lineup can you get production from consistently that's going to push you ahead of the competition. And that's why the third line is so critically important to the success of Ottawa's season. And Shane Pinto has to be a part of it. Like, I don't know what I would be willing to like attach to a bad contract to get it out, but they need Shane Pinto in the lineup. There's no excuses to have Shane Pinto sitting on the sidelines in a season where there's no excuses.
No, he can't be doing that. And Ross, we've emphasized how important it is for this team to get off to a hot start. We've highlighted how much of a hot start Kubalik had last year. We talked about Shane Pinto and Kubalik being line mates. How about the hot start Shane Pinto got off to last year? In his first 6 games, he had 5 goals. He didn't score in the season opener, but then the next 5 games, he had a goal in each of those. And then even then 2 games later, he scored against Florida. So his first 8 games, he had 6 goals. So if you can get him and Kubalik firing off the get-go as your third liners, man, that could have a major impact on how this season goes.
I completely agree. So Shane Pinto last year came in. Where do you think the trajectory's been for Shane Pinto? Because he's been pretty steady. In 2020, we had him all the way up at 13.
Yeah.
Might have been a hot take back then. And then he comes in at number 9 in 2021, number 9 in 2022, and just like Ridley Gregg, would have been in an identical spot if it weren't for a certain Stanley Cup champion that signed in late July who pushed everyone down one spot.
Yeah, that's why we said we didn't even really talk about moving him up or down without a contract, because this is where he belongs on this organizational value rankings for the Ottawa Senators.
So let us know in the comments, Ridley Gregg, Shane Pinto, how do you compare them? How do you contrast them? And who are you expecting more from in the short, medium, and long term?